So Crytek released a new dev diary for Hunt Showdown, and this is dev diary number 2. It's called Tools of the Trade, and in it we can see multiple new confirmed weapons, or at least semi-confirmed, because you'll see in the video coming up what he talks about, and what multiple of them talk about. Also, we're going to be stopping every so often and take a look at, what's in the video.
We were absolutely sure, of course, of the time frame where our game would play, so in 1890, more or less. That era defined the technology level that we could access.
So in this part, we can see a list of multiple revolvers. Now, there's very interesting ones. Is at the bottom, you can see there's one with a kind of like a brass knuckle kind of frame on it. But there's one that's particularly interesting, and that's this one. This is a suppressed revolver, as you can see. Now, there's only a very few amount of revolvers that can actually be suppressed because of the way that revolvers work with a cylinder gap. The cylinder isn't sealed, so gases escape out the side, so putting a suppressor on the end of a revolver doesn't work. So, there are a few revolvers that have something called a gas seal. What happens is, when you pull the trigger, the cylinder moves close to the barrel to form a nice tight fit so that you don't get any gas escaping. Now, the most famous revolver that uses this type of system is the Nagant revolver. Also, there is another revolver called the Piper revolver. I can't really tell which one that is, but it's either the Nagant or the Piper. It could be either. Now, the Nagant and the Piper, I believe, use really weird types of ammunition where the bullet is actually seated down into the brass. You'll have a picture on it on your screen. Alright, let's continue on with the video.
Although guns are really important in our game, they have to fit into the whole package. We took our time to get the art direction right, the dirtiness, the grittiness of Hunt. And if it's a real weapon, you really dive into the model, you do your research about the history of the gun, you grab a lot of reference. While with a more fictional design that we also have, of course, there comes more artistic freedom.
So here we can see, obviously, a fantasy weapon, as Crytek's The Hunt Showdown is a fantasy game. While it does have many real guns, it also has, as you can see, fantasy weapons. Now, these particularly interest me, is because how are they going to make fantasy weapons that still fit into the game? I would love to see what they create. As you know, Crytek's famous for the Crysis games, so Crysis has fairly unique guns that still fit into like a real gun-ish category. So I'd love to see what they create.
We'd start with a really simple gray box thing so the designers can play around with it, balance it out.
So here we can see a rough model, maybe a semi-rough, almost done model, maybe. I don't know, I'm not a game developer. Of a Sharps rifle. Now, in-game, I believe this is called the Sparks, because the Sharps rifle, or at least the name Sharps, is still being used. While the company originally went out of business in, I believe, the 1890s or 1880s, a new company has picked up the name. So, yes, the game in-game, this is going to be called the Sparks, according to the website.
Maybe find out if the weapon is really the right thing for our game. Maybe we drop it at that point. But if the concept is proven, we do.
So here we see a gun that you might be recently familiar with from Battlefield, as it is in the Name of the Czar expansion. But this is obviously the Vetterli rifle. Now, he said right before this clip that we might drop guns if they don't fit the game. So that's why I said in the beginning of this video that some might be confirmed and some might be semi-confirmed. Now, the real distinguishing thing is which Vetterli this is. If you don't know, the Vetterli rifle was made in Switzerland, but then also was used by Italy and some other nations now for a very long time. So it went through multiple adaptations. It went from a single-shot rifle to a tube-fed rifle to a stripper clip-fed rifle, or more of a charger clip-fed rifle, whichever you kind of think. And it also had several other adaptations. There was a lot of adaptations of the Vetterli. Let's continue on with the video.
Detailed white boxes where all the movable parts of a weapon are present. And that's usually the point where I are in close connection to the animators and I explain to them, okay, this gun is moving and functioning this way. From there, it's more improving.
So we saw the Mosin Nagant briefly, but I want to talk about this, as I have no idea what this is. If it's a fantasy weapon, if it's a real gun, I mean, it kind of looks like a bottom part of a Martini Henry, maybe? If anyone has any idea what this is, or if it's a fantasy weapon, as they're making fantasy weapons, I'm not sure. I mean, it has, like, the Martini Henry shape, but it has no trigger. At least I don't see a trigger, so if anyone has any idea what this is, tell me.
And detailing out those white boxes. We add success.
So here we see a gun that we already knew was in the game, from the gameplay and the website. But here is multiple versions, or at least customized versions, of the same rifle. Or, I think the same rifle. The bottom one might be a bigger variant because of the receiver. So, this is obviously the Winchester replica, I think called the Winfield in the game because of the copyright issues. But yeah, we can see that there are multiple styles. If you look at the first one, it does not have a magazine tube that extends out to the front of the barrel, meaning that one has a lower capacity. The second one, and the first one also has a scope on it. The second one seems to be the plain Jane rifle. Long barrel, long magazine tube, simple sights, no melee attachment like on the bottom one. The bottom one seems to be the longest barrel. It also, as you can see, or you might not be able to see, has a different type of sight apparatus on it than the middle one. It also, as you can tell, has those blades on it.
More detail until the shippable quality. We imagine the hunters being...
So here we can see a gun you might think is a fantasy weapon, which is a gun axe. Gun axes were real things. Are they practical? I don't know. Are they cool? Yes, they are. But yeah, the gun axe, I imagine this thing's gonna be great up close. This thing's, shoot, wait for someone to come around the corner, bam, axe right to them, Alright.
Also craftsmen who build their tools to their needs. They are handy in inventing traps and devices. Sticky bombs, for example. We have a modular system, so we have a spiked sticky bomb frame that we can combine with different charges. The concertina, which is a barbed wire bomb to prevent enemy movement. And that's a lot of fun. It's basically changing the shape of the battlefield. My favorite weapon to work on was the Mosin Nagant rifle. We have really nice sound design on the weapon. The animations are already quite nice, and when you take some shots at enemies, for example, the payoff from each shot is really there. The weapons list and the weapon cast that we have, that we would like to have in the game, is really huge. So there's a lot of stuff going in, and a lot of weapons that people don't know about, even weapons that
So we're nearing the end of the video, and as you can see, there's multiple weapons on this list that he went through. So, as you can see, there's several unique weapons. Obviously, see a Mosin Obrez, a cut-down Mosin. There's one that interests me a lot, as it's a gun that I think this is what it is, and as it's not one that is featured very often. It is the Blake rifle. Or, I think it's called the Blake infantry rifle, or just the Blake rifle. So, the Blake rifle if that's what this is a very unique weapon, in that it's a bolt-action gun that has detachable rotary clips. I don't know, the designer, John Henry Blake, called them packets. They're 7 rounds, fairly unique. So I'm hoping that's what this is, as it's not a gun that's featured very often. Ian of Forgotten Weapons was able to do a video on one or two, I forget. So yes, is the end of the video, and yeah, hope that Crytek's new game, Hunt Showdown, is a good one. It seems like it's going to be good. It's a very unique game. And yeah, tell me if you're excited. Tell me what guns you would like to see. Tell me what you think of what you've seen of the game so far. Yeah. Bye.
I didn't know about existed before I joined the team. People can be curious about what will be in the final game.
Achieved with Crytek.